It had always been a goal of mine to run into him in the city, either on his boosted board or on a run, because those are the things that he does. And it was just him and I on the bridge, and he got closer. And when I realized it was him, my jaw just dropped and I waved.
Hi everyone, welcome to They Had Fun. I'm Rachel and I am back with another amazing story about New York City. And up first, we have my two personal New York City recommendations of things you can go do to have fun in New York City this weekend. And after that, we are going to have my fabulous guests with their story of the most fun they have ever had in New York City. So right up at the front, let me just make an announcement. It is already our 11th episode of this season. That means next week is the end. So I'm going to save you some long rambling story about the meaning of this season and everything until next week's episode. But just know we are approaching it that quickly, the end of season 6. It has flown by. Okay, so let's go ahead and get into my Rachel's Rec. So the way I decided this week's, I was looking at the Rachel's Recs Google map that we have. I don't know if you guys know about this. I should probably promote it a bit more, but I literally have like a super type A freak categorized custom Google map of all the Rachel's Recs that I've ever done. They are like put in by restaurants, bars, casual eats, museums, parks, like everything. They're all categorized. They're color coded. They've got icons. And I put a little description of each of them. It's super helpful if you're in a certain neighborhood and you're like, oh God, what should I go do? Oh, here's something. Okay, I know I can count on this because Rachel has opinions and good taste. Let's just say it. So I went and I looked at this map. We're missing so much of uptown. Obviously, I live in Ridgewood. I'm going a lot to Brooklyn. I'm going a lot to Manhattan, but it is important to me for this map to reflect all of New York City. That being said, we do not have one single Staten Island Rachel's Rec yet. So I need a remedy to that this summer. Okay. But there's nothing uptown. So I thought, why don't I do something that's Upper East, Upper West, something like that. And now you guys know how I am with this weather turn. I'm going to be bringing you things, maybe not every week, but I would like to do this. Things you can do in tandem. Ideally, maybe you do them on a bike ride. That would bring me so much joy. If you ever do any of these, will you please tag me? I never say that to you guys. I would love to see you doing them. I would love to share it in my stories. I would like to know there are people listening to this enjoying these recommendations. So today is going to be two things you can do together. So first up, I'm going to talk about the Conservatory Garden in Central Park. Now I know what you're thinking, Rachel, gasp, Central Park. Thanks for that recommendation. Blah. But the Conservatory Gardens up at 105th and 5th Avenue are so fucking beautiful. And I think because they're like a little bit further north, people don't go as much. I love going here. Now, one of the most beautiful things is you enter these gardens through the Vanderbilt gate right at 105th and 5th Avenue. And then once you get inside of there, it's all of these super formal gardens. I think there's a French one, an English one, an Italian one. There's a really cool fountain with the dancing sisters. It's so peaceful. It's just this really lovely respite right uptown. Go walk around, take in the silence, take in the sun, do whatever you need to do, but have a beautiful little day in Central Park and a little bit further uptown. So it's a bit quieter. It is such a good spot. Go to the Conservatory Gardens. Okay. So before or after this, depending on the type of person you are, I am not a morning person, so I'd be going to the gardens first. And then after that, I would be heading to lunch at Barney Greengrass. Now, the good news is there's a city bike dock right next to the Conservatory Gardens entrance. And once you ride all the way through Central Park over to the west side. I mean, come on, how great of a day is that? You're going to go all the way to Amsterdam and 86th, and there's a city bike dock right there, and you're going to go to Barney Greengrass. Now, this is your classic Upper West Side Jewish deli. They don't take reservations. You go in there, you have to get sat on the one side. It's so worth it. The menu is wonderful. When I'm there, I like to get a couple of things. I get a bagel, I get some coleslaw, I get pickle, I get orange juice, I get an iced tea. My husband gets whatever he wants. It's an institution for a reason. If you've heard about Barney Greengrass, you haven't been, maybe you didn't want to go uptown, here's a great little excuse for you to put these two together and have a lovely uptown New York City city bike day. You also could jump on the bus or walk, do whatever. But you know I'm always going to promote you guys jumping on bikes. So that's it. Conservatory Gardens, Barney Greengrass. God, I know I say it every time, guys, but like New York is just so great. I say these things and I'm like, oh, should I do that this weekend? Funny enough, I forgot when I was going back to look at pictures because I'm going to have to make an eventual reel for this on Instagram. I was looking at the pictures and I had actually done both of these together in the same day. I always practice what I preach. I was like sitting there and I'm like, Conservatory Gardens would be fun. What if you went to Barney Greengrass after that? I did that before. I should trust myself in these things because I knew it would be such a fun day. I had done it. Maybe I'll do it again this weekend. Okay, those are my Rachel's Recs. Next week is our finale episode. It's summer. I'm going to be out. I'm going to be partying. I'm going to be having a good time. And I hope you are too. Let's go ahead and get into my guest for today. Another recommendation from someone who had been previously on the show. She's got a lot of different backgrounds. She's young in the city. Of course, you should have a lot of varied things to do. Let's talk about a few of them. She has a background in fashion. She is a musician. She is a violinist. Most importantly, she happens to be the manager of a clothing brand right here in New York City. We're going to hear more about that right at the beginning. Please welcome to the show, Camryn Self.
Hey, how's it going?
It's going great. It is gorgeous in New York City today.
It is.
And I know it's like super passe and lame to talk about the weather, but I feel like we've done that turn where like New Yorkers are like, oh my God, I can live again.
Oh, it has boosted the morale for sure. Like
makes everything a lot better for us. Okay, so speaking of being a New Yorker, you are a new citizen to this city. We're having guests this season that have recently moved here within the past 2 years. You fit the bill. You were recommended by someone else who had been on the show, Emmy Joe. Turns out you guys have known each other basically your entire lives. You moved here around the same time. She was like, she does some music. She does a bunch of other things. I think you might enjoy talking to her. You said yes to being on the show. You know, you have a lot of different paths we can go down here. You sometimes perform in her band. You do fashion things. You were telling me you like work at a yoga studio. Sometimes it's that classic, like first moved to New York hustle. But the one we're going to maybe focus on the most, and it's kind of interesting, is that you're a manager of a clothing store on the Upper East Side. The listeners know I don't learn too much. So like you were talking a bit before we start recording and you're like, well, I'll tell you about it on air. Like, so I really don't know. Please tell me about your job.
Yeah. So I guess this kind of plays into how I got to New York. I was working at a clothing and shoe boutique in Nebraska, and graduation was approaching for me. I needed to find a job. I had told everyone I knew that I was moving to New York City after graduation, but I needed a job. So at the boutique I worked for, they went on like 2 buying trips a year in New York City. So the September one was rolling around in 2022, and I knew it'd be a huge networking opportunity for me. So I asked if I could come along, and my boss said that I could. I was prepping for the trip. I printed out physical resumes. I was ready to roll. We fly into New York City super early in the morning. Our first appointment's at 10 a.m. So we kind of have to rush to our appointment, throw our bags in the hotel. So last appointment of the day is at Alex Mill. And goes super great. We're all exhausted. It's time to go back to the hotel. So we're walking out of the showroom to the elevator. And as we're waiting for the elevator to come up, Mickey Drexler walks out. So I don't know if you're familiar, but Mickey Drexler was...
I don't think so, no.
He was the CEO of Gap and J. Crew back in the day, CEO when Jenna Lyons was creative director at J. Crew. He founded Old Navy and Madewell.
Wow.
His son Alex founded Alex Mill. So
yes.
Mickey was the CEO of Alex Mill at the time, is now the chairman. He's just been named like the father of retail. He's a pretty big deal. And
just a random person to walk into on the elevator.
Yeah. So he walks out. At that time, I didn't know who he was, but the energy between my bosses, there was a shift, and I knew that he was important. So
yes,
he starts chatting with us, of course, because we had just walked out of the Alex Mill showroom, asking us about what we thought of the collection, yada, yada, yada. So my boss mentioned to him that I was looking to move to New York and work in the fashion industry. So he ends up taking me back into the office and into the showroom and starts like hot seating me interview questions in front of everybody.
Oh
and
my God.
When I tell you, I am like shaking in my boots. Like I was so excited that this was happening, but also just so nervous. And I was so caught off guard. But yeah, just hot seating me. He's like, you have a job here.
What?
You should leave your email with my assistant and we'll like keep in touch. I go over to his assistant's desk. I am like trying to write out my email. My hand is shaking so bad. Like, yeah, long story short, that was September. I interviewed to see where I could fit within the company, got the job offer in December, and graduated from college in December, and then moved in January. And now I manage assistant manager at the Upper East Side store.
Oh my God. You really were like, no wonder you weren't telling me, like, I got a tail right off the bat, lady. Okay. Let's hold on a second. Oh my God. I should have known who that was. That's really weird that I didn't know who it is, but that's crazy. This is like one of those New York stories where you're like, so then I just went off to New York and I met one of the biggest heads of retail merchandising like on the planet. And then he gave me a job. It's like some like, it's like Working Girl movie or something where you're like
Yeah.
coming to the
Well, that's
city.
the thing. Like, I, in college, applied for dozens and dozens of internships in New York City. COVID happened my sophomore year. So it was just really tough. Like, brands were getting rid of their internship programs. I was ghosted or rejected by every single one. It was so difficult. So I was like, if I can just get to New York City in some capacity, these things are just bound to like you run into the craziest people here, and I was immensely lucky.
The positivity
Yeah.
that is coming off some of these episodes in this season. I mean, it's just got to be killing people to be like, oh, just you wait. But it is like, I know that feeling. We say it all the time, like, oh, if I can just get there, I'll just make it. But like, you literally were like, you got here and you got a job. And then you moved like 3 months later. I feel like we're already sort of covering the questions of the show, but I have different like ways we're going to cover some of it. So that's so interesting that you just got a job that fast, that it worked out. And now you're even just moving yourself up the ranks. It's so cool. I can't believe how fast you came afterwards. Okay, so let's go ahead and that's so interesting. I love all of that. Let's go ahead and get into the regular questions of the show. Little bit already you've said, but when did you move to New York?
January of 2023. So I've been here just like a year and some change.
Do you remember the day you moved here? Did you fly? Did you drive? What was this?
I remember. It was January 15th and my birthday is the 17th. So my parents and I flew with like 5 suitcases or 6 maybe. It was a little bit tense of a trip because my dad did not want me to move here. Like I got my apartment on Street Easy in Nebraska before I had moved. So I got the keys on my birthday, which was what a birthday present.
Yeah.
But I had never seen the apartment in real life. Depth perception in photos in New York City. I mean,
they will do it on purpose.
Woo!
Yeah.
We walked in and my parents were like,
start like crying. Yeah.
Yeah. And it was just, we didn't talk for like the first, I feel like we all just stood there in silence for a while.
Wow.
And like I said, it was pretty tense. And now, I mean, my dad is so supportive. He cannot wait to come back. He tells me that my mission is to find the best slice of pizza so that when he comes, we can go straight to it.
Oh my God.
He's about it, but it was a little bit tough at first.
Yeah. I'm sure that was like a transition for them. It's never, I'm sure it's like never super easy for parents who have these like young kids who are like, guess what? I'm moving to New York. And they're like, yeah, cute. And then you're like, I got a job. And they're like, wait.
Yeah, that was the thing. Like I had been telling them since high school or maybe college, like I'm moving to New York City after graduation. And I guess he just didn't believe me.
Yeah, right.
When I told him that I got the job, he was just like crickets. Like,
honestly, you kind of, the fact that you had a job before you came here and that you had an apartment before you came here pretty much puts you leaps and bounds ahead of most people. I feel like some people don't have either one of them.
That was the thing. It's like, I had to have a job before I moved just because I already knew this was going to be tough and also like tough news to break. And so I was like, I need to have all my ducks in a row as most as I can.
I like that. I was a little responsible girly, not like me who was like, I'm sleeping on a couch for 2 weeks and then I'll figure it out.
Yeah.
No, that's good. And I'm sure I'm sure it was a little jarring for them, and I'm sure they're very proud and happy of you now. I mean, look at this. Yes. You're on a podcast. So many things could be happening. Okay. So we know obviously you got the job at Alex Mill. You had this like completely serendipitous run-in an elevator. But even before that, you're looking for the job because you're saying, I'm moving to New York City. So our second question is always, why did you move to New York? And yes, you had the job, but like, why New York? Like, why did you want to come even, and that's what made you look for a job?
I have always been obsessed with New York. I've always romanticized New York, and New York was just the place to be, obviously. And in high school and college, I started to get a lot more into fashion and the business side of fashion. So even more so, this was the place that I needed to be. A lot of my like childhood best friends moved here for college, so I would come visit. I just loved it. When I tell you, I have watched every single apartment tour on YouTube of New York City. Up until January 2023, I've seen them all. I wanted to be here so bad. And yeah.
And that's it. No, that's great. I mean, listen, that's basically same, but I love that how the
Mhm.
narrative has changed. It's like, you watched like Sex in the City, or you saw When Harry
Oh,
Met Sally,
yes.
or like
Of
but now
course.
it's like, duh, this new generation is watching YouTube videos and TikToks and
Mhm.
like have whatever opinion you want, but that's what's like giving you the romance of New York City. I watched things like that too that made me want to move to New York. So it's exciting. I mean, it's actually interesting to me to hear this new mediums and the new ways that people are finding their way to the city. Essentially, it's like, I loved it. I had to be here. That's perfect.
Mhm. Yes.
Yes. Okay. So, with that in mind, you've been here about a year. You have this great job. You've always been obsessed with New York City. Let's go ahead and get into the most important question of the show, which again, I have no idea what you are going to say. Camryn, what is the most fun you've ever had in New York City?
I'm just going to start by saying, I don't know if this is a universal feeling or just me, but I feel like I go through phases where it kind of feels like day to day, you're either being blessed by New York City or it's like plotting for your downfall. And sometimes it doesn't feel like there's an
Yes.
in between. And
It's not just you. You're very, yes,
yeah.
very true.
Yes. And this week, a year ago in particular, I was just being absolutely blessed. Like every day was filled with the most perfect moments. And I was just like having the time of my life, honestly. I think partially this was due to it being like the first nice weather week,
Hmm.
which, like I said, it really helps
Right.
boost the morale.
See,
I moved
exactly.
in the winter, which was such a choice.
Yeah.
So this was like the first time that I was experiencing New York City spring and nice weather. So April 30th, my good friend from college was in town and we went to Maud Apatow's final bow at Little Shop of Horrors. We got to meet her. We
Whoa.
stage doored in the pouring rain, got to meet her. It took off from there.
Great start.
Yes. This is maybe embarrassing, but I still geek anytime I get to meet a famous person in New York City. I still think that's like one of the coolest things about New York.
It is cool. You're just supposed to act like it's not cool.
Right.
Even like one of my friends who like lived here was like, "Oh, do you think we'll see a celebrity if we go uptown?" And I'm like, "Maybe." You're just supposed to act like you're not doing it. Okay, so
Exactly.
yeah.
This gets the week started. Next day, May 1st, is the Met Gala. And we go to watch, which is, as someone who loves fashion, it was just the coolest thing. My two eyes to get to watch the Met Gala, right?
This is like such perfect timing. We just had the Met Gala.
Yesterday. Yes, I
Yeah.
know. So we go to the Met Gala. It's so iconic. It's so cool. I come home. I'm exhausted. I fall asleep. I fall asleep in my clothes. I wake up at 5 a.m. and I'm like, it was one of those things where you wake up and like you're not going back to sleep. So I was like, okay, well, I need to figure out something to do, I guess. And it had always been on my bucket list to go watch sunrise on the Brooklyn Bridge. And like I said, I moved in the winter, so this opportunity had not presented itself yet. And I was already dressed. So I was like, all right, I'm just gonna throw my shoes on, run to the train. I'm running there and I'm like checking my phone weather app to see like what time the sun actually rises. And I'm like, okay, I know I'm going to be cutting this one
Oh
close.
my God.
So I get off the train at like the base of the bridge and I start walking up the ramp and it's getting like pretty light out. So I'm like, I did not come all of this way to miss this. So I just start running. I'm like, I gotta make it to where I can see. So I didn't know I was going to be getting my like daily exercise in for the day at 6 a.m. or whatever, but I'm like sprinting to the middle of the bridge.
Is there anyone else on the
No
bridge?
one, no one.
Oh, okay. Okay. Okay.
No, no one is out. And I get to the middle and the sky is just like orange. It is beautiful. I turn around and it's just that perfect time where the sun is like reflecting off the Fide skyline.
Oh,
It was just like such a surreal moment. Like I said, no one was out there. So it really did just feel like it was me and the city. And when I first moved here, it was a tough couple of first months, I should
right.
say.
Yeah.
And I feel like the weather was nice. I was looking at this incredible skyline, and it was just the moment where I was like, this is what I have been fighting to get to for so many years. I wanted to be here so bad. I just stood there in awe. Like, it was just the coolest thing ever. So I'm like, all right, I'm going to walk to the Brooklyn side and walk back.
Wait a minute. So it's like 6 a.m. and you have done all of this already? Like what time is it?
Yeah, it's like I think the sunrise was like 6:30.
Oh my gosh. Okay, okay, sorry.
So I'm walking back and I see this runner like running towards me, and I'm like, no way is this who I think it is. It's Casey Neistat running
Yeah,
towards me. And I was a big YouTube girl
yeah,
growing
yeah,
up.
yeah.
I grew up watching every single New York City vlog of Casey Neistat's. Like I think is a big part why I romanticize New York so much because
Oh,
like
totally.
seeing it from his perspective was so cool. And it had always been a goal of mine to run into him in the city, either on his boosted board or on a run, because those are the things that he does. And it was just him and I on the bridge, and he got closer. And when I realized it was him, my jaw just dropped and I waved. And we both had our AirPods in. So we like said hi, but he smiled, knew I was just a random girl that recognized him. And we just continued on our
Oh
way.
my
I
God.
was like, this is literally the best day of my life. And it's only 6:30. Like,
So you saw a celeb too. You were like saying you want to
yeah.
like see a celebrity, and then I
Yeah.
mean, he's a celebrity. Like, yes.
Yeah.
Okay. So you see him.
Then I was like, all right, well, it was my day off. It was only like 6:37 in the morning. So I was like, I'm just gonna walk to 57th Street because Emmy was working at a matcha cafe at the time on 57th Street. And it was gonna take me like an hour and an hour and a half to walk there. That's exactly the time that they opened. So
Camryn, damn, I'm impressed so far. Jeez.
I started walking. I got to Soho and it started pouring rain. So I'm like, all right.
Wow.
I hopped on the train and I didn't really know where I was going, but I just didn't really need to because, like, I had nowhere to be, I guess. So
Yeah.
I got off at Grand Central and I'd never seen the Grand Central atrium before. So I went and saw that for the first time, which is another just like classic,
Oh my
quintessential
gosh.
New York City
Yeah.
moment. And that's how it ended with me in Grand Central Station. I know that might be a little anticlimactic for the ending of the story, but it was a morning just full of perfect New York City moments. And it was one of those days where I just sat in awe that I get to live here and that I finally
Oh.
made it.
That's so cute. It's not anticlimactic. It is Grand Central Station. And, it's this like beacon of hope for all of us. That's so beautiful. You hear a story like this. I'm just so not a morning person. And I want to be so badly.
I wasn't at the time either at all.
Okay. So maybe I just need to like, when I do those things where I wake up at 5, maybe I just need to like run with it because it's like giving me like the chills a bit about imagining being the only person on the Brooklyn Bridge having this entirely to yourself. Like that is such a special, rare moment. You get the celeb sighting and to just be that girl who always loved it so much and have that day and be in Grand Central looking up at the ceiling and being like, I fucking did it.
Yep, pretty much.
You hear that, Dad? No. Sorry. Sorry.
Oh,
Okay.
I send everything that I do that's classic New York. I send photos. They're like, cool, nice, that's awesome.
So happy for you. That's cute.
Yeah.
All right. That's so good. That's
Yeah.
such a good New York story. Honestly, we always put like in the notes, like, you want to have fun, like Camryn or something. And, you like tag whatever the spots you went to. But I love for this, it's like, I hope people just hear this and are like, you know what? I'm going to go on that walk. I'm going to get up earlier than I planned. I'm going to go see a sunrise. I'm going to go walk around. I'm going to do this. Like, let these days open up and unfold for you living in this city. We're so lucky to be here. It's a great story. Thank you for sharing it with me. Okay. Seeing as you always wanted to move to New York so bad and you are now here, why don't I ask you the last question of the show? And that is, what is your favorite thing about New York?
I think I would be lying if I didn't say my favorite thing about New York City is the food.
Yeah.
I just think not only do you get to have food from like every general region, but food from every country specifically. Coming from Nebraska, it's so cool. Like, not only do I get to have a hot dog, I can have a Venezuelan hot dog with fried cheese and avocado on it. Like, I just think it gets so specific to every culture, and that is such a cool thing to get to experience. And I'm also a foodie and I love to eat. So
That's great. That's the straight, honest, true answer. It's like, my favorite thing is I can have any food on the planet right here. It's one of the best things about this city. It's so good. I'm happy that that is your favorite thing. It doesn't need to be some like deep philosophical. It's been a while. People take a note here. It's been a while since we've had the people. I feel like everyone for a long time was saying the people, which is great and true. But like, let's just get to the reality. Sometimes you can have a Venezuelan hot dog, and that's beautiful.
it's so beautiful.
Camryn, thank you so much for moving to New York, for all the wonderful things that have happened to you, for sharing that story. I loved hearing it. Thanks for being on the show.
Thank you so much for having me. This was so fun.
I love when I get that little tag at the end. Most of all, thanks, New York. They had fun.